far.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear, and today we have the pleasure of sitting with Reid McNeill. Reid's entering his 8th year pro from AA player back in the day to getting on the radar. And I mean, you've got a wicked story, and obviously I've had a chance to know you for quite a few years, but I want to touch on just a little bit. Sometimes I'll go way back with guys from like minor hockey going on and stuff like that. I know you played as a young kid, and obviously your dad was, into it a little bit and kind of,
Sure.
Probably not the stereotypical hockey dad, but an intense man and a big boy.
Yeah, for sure. He's I remember in minor hockey, he used to lean over top of the glass when I was in like battles on the boards. Come on, Reid. I better win that battle or I'm going to hear about it after.
Yeah,
but
no,
he pushed me a lot, and it was good as a young kid. Like, kind of fought back on some things, like him trying to get me to shoot more pucks and, get me in the gym a little bit more and making sure that I'm eating all the time, because I was kind of a late bloomer as far as like growing. So he knew that I was going to sprout. So he just kind of tried to get me to eat as much as I could. So, when the time came, I was ready to take off. But, I owe a lot of my career to dad and mom as well. They were great growing up.
No, that's awesome. And your dad, like how tall is your dad? He's 6'5" plus?
Yeah, 6'5", 6'6".
It's a big man.
In that area. But yeah, like I remember playing minor hockey, like minor midget AAA. I was trying to obviously get drafted. And I think I was like 5'6", and no scouts were like looking at my dad going, whose kid is
right.
that? Who's going to sprout? And I remember Jim McKellar, the GM or the assistant GM of the London Knights, came up to me after I signed in London, and he was like, where did you come from? And he said, he went back through the scouting reports, and he said, we had you logged in at 5'6", 121 in your draft year. And he's like, we didn't have a single scouting report note on you.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, you were a D-man at 5'6", 120, like just a skinny, skinny kid, right? Obviously. But talking about being a bit of a later bloomer, like when you look back on, cause I knew you through minor hockey a little bit, and then we started kind of doing some stuff a little bit when 14, 15, and it was almost kind of like that light switch pop for you a little bit, where you're like, you know what, I think I want to try to play in the O. I think I want to try to push hockey a little bit. And then all of a sudden go to a bit of a camp, get noticed a little bit. Now you're on the radar. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're signing with the Knights as you said, a 5'6", now you pop, right? You kind of grow a little bit, get a little bit stronger, and then, man, have a sick OHL career.
Yeah, it happened quickly. Like, 5'6" at 15, and I think at 17 when I started with the Knights, I was 6'2" or 6'3", 180. And kind of like the year and a half between that, like I had mono, so I lost 30 pounds of mono.
Yeah.
So I think I was sitting around like 6'1", 145. And then I just got in the gym and started working with you and kind of just rebuilt my body from the ground up. And I went into junior B camps. I got cut from AAA, the major midget AAA team. Ended up playing junior D with the Lambeth Lancers at 16.
Yeah.
Played 10 games with them on a 10-game card. And then I left there and I played high school hockey with my brother, with Lucas. We ended up winning the city championship.
Yeah.
One of like my best hockey memories, getting to play with my older brother for his last year of high school, winning the city championship in front of obviously friends and family. But from there, that ended in February, and I had just got over mono. So I was kind of just this tall, lanky frame coming out of, a championship in February. And I just kind of committed to, getting into the gym and really pushing it. And I worked from February all the way through till junior B main camps. And I think I went to 5 or 6 junior B main camps. And my goal for that year was just to make a junior B roster. And I think after my second camp, which was the London Nationals, they were prepared to sign me right out of like the spring training camp. And they said, yeah, you're going to be our seventh D-man this year, depending on what happens up top with, we got a couple guys away at the London Knights camp. The Knights had Carlson and Delzato gone, and they were expected to come back.
Right. Yeah.
So there was going to be kind of the trickle-down effect. And they ended up making it. So they made their NHL team. So there was kind of some vacancies on the Knights rosters, and that kept some London National guys up top for a little bit. And that gave me the opportunity to get into some preseason games with the Nationals. And I remember my first Junior B preseason game was in Stratford, and I went out and, of all things, I got 2 goals. And kind
7D, huh?
Yeah, and kind of just turned some heads. Like, you know, I was working with you a lot on the skating treadmill and a lot in the gym and foot speed and all this stuff. So, you know, I was now at like 6'2", like 175, still lanky, but, you know, I could move all right. And kind of came in and just floated some in from the blue line and enough to turn some heads. And, I remember the next day, my dad called me out onto our deck, and he said that he just got off the phone with scout or the GM from the Sarnia Sting, and they're prepared to make a contract offer. And Plymouth was also interested in making an offer, and they're going to be coming to like the next 2 or 3 games to scout me, and they're prepared to make an offer. And kind of, it happened so quickly, and it was just like, I my intention was to make a Junior B team, and now I got OHL teams looking at me. It was pretty surreal, like when it first started. But you know, I kept on. It was still preseason for Junior B, so I went out and we had a preseason game in Chatham, I believe it was, and went out and I played just kind of, you know, the same way I was. I came off the ice, and the coach of the Nationals called my name, and he's like, McNeill, come outside for a sec. So I went outside, and Mark Hunter's just standing in this dark, dingy, like old Chatham barn hallway, just under a light. And the first thing he said to me was, "You're coming to play for me this year." And I was like, I had already been down to Sarnia to do like a wine and dine kind of thing. Yeah. And I was like, well, like, I don't know. I think I might be signing with Sarnia. He goes, "No, you're playing with me this year." And, you know, being with the Nationals, they're affiliated with the Knights. And once he saw that, you know, 2 teams wanted me, he came and took a look. And, kind of after that, ended up playing the home opener with the Knights.
Crazy, man.
And, like, agents were calling me to, you know, it just happened so quickly. I think in, like, a span of 8 months, I went from playing high school hockey to, you know, having agents trying to represent me and getting on NHL draft lists. It was just, it was so quick. But, you know, in that time, in that 8 months, there was a lot going on behind the scenes that kind of, you know, made that possible.
Well, and I think that's the most important thing for especially young kids that get cut from teams, right? Like you get cut from your major midget team, probably a little devastated, like, oh man, what am I going to do now, right? And then, you know, persevering over that. But I think you're right, man. When you peel it back a little bit, look behind the scenes, like you worked your tail off to become a better player. And as a guy who, a lot of times when kids are small, they're good skaters, they're pretty compact, they're good. And then all of a sudden you pop 3-4 inches and they're Bambi.
For sure.
And you had a good, like, yeah, maybe you went through that stage a little bit, but you know, for your frame and how big you are, you're a great skater, and but you hammered it. Like you really worked on it and got better at it and kept working at it. And obviously, you know, proofs in the pudding. And being a London boy, being able to make that opening roster with London is pretty cool. Like you're sitting there with 9,000 fans in the building. You're like, man, I was playing high school hockey last year and I'm on the bench right now starting.
It was so surreal. But like touching on like kind of being a shorter, like a smaller player throughout minor hockey, like that kind of taught me a lot about like the positioning of the game. Like my mom always, or my parents always said, like, you're going to grow. Like look at dad.
And your brother.
My brother was also like a late bloomer too. And he shot up to like, he's like 6'5", 235.
Yeah.
So I'm the short one in the family. But, so, you know, my parents were always like, you're going to grow, you're going to fill out. So just focus on the positioning. Make sure you have a good stick. Make sure you like learn the game now so that when you do hit that size, you know, you're still not a liability. Like you know the game and it will only become easier. So, you know, when I hit that growth spurt, it was like, the game's easy now.
Yeah.
You know, like I can actually move bodies. I don't have to, you know, I'm still working hard like, when I was short, but my positioning and my stick is so strong because I had to be efficient as a smaller player, that now it's kind of like an advantage. Now, looking back, it was, it really made me the player who I am right now.
No, it's cool. And one thing I've always loved about you and I've always respected about you is you're very conscious of what type of player you are. You know what I mean? Like, you've played some offensive roles, you played some power play, but if you ask Reid McNeill, hey, what type of player are you? Are like, I'm a defensive defenseman. I'm going to add a little bit of swagger to my game, a little bit of, and even touching on this summer, like, you had some key things that you wanted to work on this summer. And I can be the first to say, like, you hammered it. Like, it was awesome. Every day you were working on head fakes and being more evasive and things like that. But at the end of the day, what type of defenseman are you? You're a guy who's going to complement that guy that's going to be a hybrid. You're the guy that's going to be helping on the back end. And obviously, adding some offense, but you know what you are. And I think that's huge for D, especially young players, is kind of embracing what type of player you are and being the best type. And not say you can't bust out of that box eventually a bit and add other elements to your game. But I think it's so important for players to embrace what they are and get good at it. Like you said, good stick, good positioning, good feet, close on guys. And I think that's one thing that you've always been. Like, even as a young guy, you're like, I kind of know what I am. Yeah. And I want to get good at that.
Yeah. I'm a dying breed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The game's changing. And like, I think that's kind of, and one of the biggest lessons for me over the past few years is kind of like the evolution of the game. And it's like, you gotta evolve as a player, or you're going to get left behind. Like, if, every team has one, maybe two, like, really lock it down defensemen, there aren't that many jobs out there. So if you can, be a lock it down defenseman, add a couple more elements to your game, whether it's, fighting's one, but if you can chip in, you can get up in the rush. Like, you don't have to lead the rush, but if you can, I think that I'm, mobile enough that I can get up in the play. I'm not going to be the guy who's going to be weaving in and out of players and challenging guys. But if I can kind of trail up in the play and, get a shot through or make a good pass up the ice, now that stay-at-home defenseman is like, what, we can play him in some other situations. And now kind of the horizon broadens, you know what I mean? Like, there's more jobs out there. But that was my biggest focus this summer working with you was, evolving as a player. Like, I'm confident in the defensive end, and now it's kind of, at 27, evolving and, adding that, shot from the blue line, making sure that it gets through, or, just jumping up in the rush, whatever it is, like, just adding just those little elements that, start turning some more heads.
Totally. Yeah, no, exactly. And I think and that evolution part is big. And I know we're joking about it being a dying breed, but man, every team's starving for one or two or three guys that can play a good D zone, kill plays, and move the puck. And if you can do that, then keep broadening that horizon as you go. But I think that's obviously a huge part. And that's one of the reasons why you've had success up to this point, going into your 8-year pro, which we're going to get into in a sec. But going back to kind of back in the OHL now, all of a sudden you go from high school hockey to now you're playing a starting roster. A lot of work went into that. Now fast forward a little bit, and then now you're on the draft list, and holy smokes, you may get drafted. What was that whole year like for you, as far as just, your 17, 18-year-old year playing through, and now you've got probably an agent and things are maybe happening a little bit behind the scenes. You're like, man, I might actually get drafted this year. Yeah.
I didn't even know there were draft lists. So I was never on an OHL draft list. I obviously didn't get drafted to the OHL. So I actually found out that I was on an NHL draft list from like a London Free Press interview. Like, they were, how does it feel to be on an NHL draft list? And like, that was the first time I had ever heard that there was something like that. And he had to explain to me on air, like, what it was. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Like, I still didn't really know what it meant.
Right.
And I didn't know that there was, going to be another list later in the year, and that, it's just kind of a mock or whatever. But, no, it was crazy. Like, definitely playing for London is great exposure. Playing for London as a London native was super special, not only because it was my home team, but like, I knew so many players on that team. They all played with my older brother, like Kadri,
right?
Dominic DeSando, Colin Martin, I think there was 5 players on the Knights roster that I went to high school with.
Yeah, right.
So it's like I walked into the locker room and they were like, "Reader, like what? Why are you here?" kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I ended up making the team, and that really made the transition a lot easier.
Well, they probably remembered you as a 5'6" little puke that
Yeah.
McNeill's little brother, and then all of a sudden you're like, "What? You got a stall here?"
Yeah. So actually, when I went in for the signing with the Hunters at the JLC, they hadn't met my parents yet. So when my parents walked into the room,
Mark would have been drooling when he saw your dad. You're like, "Oh man."
Yeah, but Dale's son Tucker, played with my older brother. So Dale already knew my dad and my mom.
Yeah.
So I walked in the house and you could just see the wheels turning. He's like, "Oh, this is little Reid." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was the young kid,
Yeah.
the scrawny little kid, and now he's, signing me to a contract. And it was just like, even he had like a little bit of a wow, like,
Yeah.
this is pretty unheard of.
It's pretty cool, man. Now, when you say contract and stuff, for parents that don't know, like most times, especially nowadays when players sign an OHL deal or contract to play, for the most part, you get some schooling attached to that. So you either get 2 years or sometimes 4 years, depending on what it was. But you coming in as undrafted, kind of free agent, kind of touted, you had a little bit of action around you with Sarnia and Plymouth and other teams, and that kind of gets teams fired up. So I'm sure, London was like, "You're playing for us." And what was that contract like? Was there some schooling attached to it? Did you have kind of a good, couple years secured? Because a lot of parents are like, "Oh, I'll just try to get a scholarship," which that is hard to get.
Yeah.
And if a kid does get an opportunity to go to the O, I get it all the time. Parents will be like, "What should we do?" I'm like, "Well, if they tag some good schooling on it, you're basically going to get a bit of a scholarship going there. Whether you use it or not is down the road, but it's nice to get some schooling tagged to it, right?" So for you, when you signed, did you get a couple years up front and then a couple years for service after that, or?
So I'm pretty sure I was a little bit like the whole experience of signing that contract was, such a rush for me, like to go into the Hunters office at the JLC to sign an OHL contract, coming from where I was like such a rush. But, the first thing Mark said once we sat down for the meeting was, "We're going to get you drafted to the NHL this year."
Okay.
And which was just like, again,
Okay.
it was just like another what is going on moment. But I'm pretty sure that there was kind of like every year that I played in the OHL, I got 1 year of university, and it was all dependent on, being in London. It was compared to, I think, Western.
Yeah.
So whatever the Western, fees and everything is what I got.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mind was kind of just stuck on like the opening statement of, "We're getting you drafted to the NHL."
Everything else is probably just like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah,
So I'm going to the show.
Yeah,
Okay.
I kind of went into that meeting thinking, okay, I'm going to get signed as like, a back end D man, like 7th, 8th, maybe play junior B with the Nationals for half a year. And he came out and was like, "Yeah, your opening day roster, we're going to get you drafted to the NHL."
It's crazy.
And it was just like, it was kind of hard to wrap my head around things at the time.
So where were you when you got drafted? Did you end up going down to the draft, or did you?
No, I was on the driving range with my mom.
Were you?
Yeah.
Phone rang?
Yeah, phone rang from my...
Were you kind of just kind of keeping busy during that day? Didn't want to kind of think about it too much, and then...
Washing cars.
Yeah.
Gardening, whatever.
Yeah.
Just, like the first round was obviously the day before. And then everything kind of started, and it was all like, they don't really broadcast it. It was kind of all online.
Yeah.
And, hit the refresh, and I was ranked around like 170 in North America.
Yeah.
So, my agent's like, "If you're going to go, it's going to be like 5 to 7. It's like, whatever, like,
Yeah.
whatever, that's fine
Yeah.
by me.
Totally.
And, then 5 starts and refresh. And I was just like, I can't do this. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So my mom and I just jumped in the car and went down to the Windermere driving range and bucket of balls. And I think we were like, I don't know, like a dozen balls in. Phone rang from my agent, and he just called me and was like, "Yeah, you just got taken by Pittsburgh in, the 7th round, this overall." And we just left everything right there. It was just like
left the balls, left your clubs.
We were just screaming in people's backswings. They were probably pretty upset.
That's amazing though, man.
Yeah, it was
cool feeling.
It was unbelievable. Like, I still just remember, looking at my mom while I was on the phone, and she just had the biggest smile on her face. Like, I don't think she knew what was coming, but you know, to hang up the phone and just to tell her like, just got drafted by all teams, by like, you know, the Pittsburgh
No
Penguins.
doubt, man. Yeah.
It was just, they had won the cup the year before.
Okay.
And it was just like Sidney Crosby, like all these guys just flashing through my mind. And it was just, you know, it's just that whole, I guess, calendar year of going from junior D to high school to the Knights to being drafted to Pittsburgh. It was just, it was looking back on it now, it was just such a whirlwind. It was
doubt.
unbelievable.
And I mean, some people might look at it and be like, oh, okay, well, he was 5'6" and he sprouted to 6'3", and like, okay. But at the end of the day, I mean, anybody could be 6'3" and not do what you did, as far as just going in and playing a steady role, doing what scouts wanted, you know, mixing it up a little bit, playing hard, playing tough. You know, so that year for you, did you have once Mark said that to you at the start of the year and you're like, okay, did it kind of change your mentality where like, man, if I play hard and I do the right things and listen to these coaches and listen to the advice I'm getting, man, I actually could potentially be on someone's radar or get an invite to a camp or get drafted. You know?
Yeah. Like, it was kind of in the back of my mind, but I was having so much fun with it. And it was like, it happened so quickly. I don't think like it really settled in. Like I was never nervous. I was never like pressuring myself to like, you have to get drafted.
Right.
It was, this, like I couldn't even catch up to the pace that things were really going. So it was just, you know, keep going and playing and having fun. And at the same time, like I had just turned into a player that I had never been. Like I was this tall, mobile D, and you know, now I'm bigger than guys, and the game was more fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was kind of enjoying that, and like playing in London, obviously it's an exciting atmosphere. And I don't think I really knew how much work it took to get to that level. But once I started, you know, I was full-time with the Knights, I saw like, you know, we're doing video with the Hunters, and it's such a professional atmosphere that, you know, I just immersed myself in it. And it was, I never really had that time to really like go, you know what, I'm getting drafted and setting those goals. I just kind of went with it.
Yeah.
And
just rode the wave.
Rode the wave. And I think things kind of caught up to me. Like once even my first like development camp with Pittsburgh, I was just like, you know what, like I almost, not that I shouldn't be here, but like I never dreamt that I could have been here. So just like go enjoy it. You know what I mean? And
for you,
to play hockey and to enjoy it, I think if you talk to a lot of professionals and to really any hockey player, they'll probably tell you like you play your best when you're having fun.
Yeah.
And you know, to play light and to play loose, it's just it makes the game easier.
Now, what was it like going into Pittsburgh in that first development camp? So they just won the cup. You just got drafted there. Show up, obviously, to development camp's one thing, and that's fun. And all the, you know, draft picks are there. The younger players are there. Not really much NHL guys, which is fine. So you kind of get that experience. Then what was main camp like when you actually went in and kind of saw some of these, you know, the Melikins and the Crosbys and the Latangs and these guys that are, you know, these guys we watch on TV on Saturday night. Legends. And all of a sudden you're like in the locker room with them, you know.
So I didn't even get to go to main camp for my first 2 years.
So just rookie camp for you.
So rookie camp was here in London.
Oh, right.
So they did it down at the JLC at the time, so the Bud. And so we had a rookie tournament with us. So Pittsburgh, Toronto, Ottawa, and one more team. I think it was Boston maybe. And it was crazy because it was in London again. So I had to fly down to Pittsburgh, do fitness testing, and then bus back to London and stay in a hotel in my hometown.
Right.
And there was a comfort to playing in the JLC, and I think that helped me a lot. But I think I went out and I think I had like 2 points in 4 games, which again was, you know, I think I had like 6 points my whole first OHL year.
Right.
So I was just having fun again. It was just, I felt so loose. I was enjoying it. And I never got to go to a main camp until I think it was my 3rd year. I was hurt my 2nd year. So I didn't even go to rookie camp. They just told me like, just get ready for the OHL season. And then the 3rd year was back in London again. And I was actually fortunate. They gave me, they let me wear a letter for that tournament, which was just another surreal experience to, not only have an NHL team jersey,
No doubt, man.
on
with
your
a,
chest,
with
but
a letter on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, a lot of respect for Penguins for doing that. But getting to that first main camp,
What was I like? Yeah.
it was just to get on the ice with Crosby and Malkin, Letang, Fleury, like their lineup was just, it was a dynasty, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I remember the first one-on-one I took with Crosby, and it was just like, it was kind of slow motion when he first got the puck. I think he just like cut through the middle and like a D gap. It was like a D gap up drill, and I gapped up. And it was kind of just like the flash like goes through your mind, just like, this is Sidney Crosby.
Yeah,
you know
holy
what I mean?
smokes, yeah.
And like his feet are they're just moving, and he's just in attack mode. And I think he just flipped the puck like right into my triangle, like right in between my feet. And I was just like, don't look down, don't embarrass yourself. You know what I mean? But, I played it out, and it was good. I think I got back in the lineup, and I was just like, again, it was just one of those that just happened kind of moments.
Yeah.
And, as camp went on, I got to defend him and Malkin more. Crosby was such an interesting guy to defend because his backhand is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you take an angle to put him to his backhand, he's still going to thread like a sauce through your legs back door.
Right.
You know what I mean? In stride.
Yeah.
And it's just, he has so many weapons, and he's so strong. Like, he's so low that, you go to touch, like you go to pin him and he just spins you, or he's so strong on the puck. Like, obviously he's, an all-time great. So you got to expect that. But, until you actually defend like that caliber of a player, it really sets like a standard of what to expect, like going in to defend guys like that. It's just, it's just something completely different. And then Malkin he's like 6'5". His hands are so quick, and he defends the puck so well. Like you can't take the puck from him, and if you do, he just takes it back, and then you're going the other way.
Yeah.
But that whole main camp experience was so cool. But like one of the best memories I have of any main camp was getting to talk to Crosby about the Memorial Cup here in London.
Right.
So I was 04, 05, so I would have been like 12, 13. And we had tickets to every game, like second row at the glass. And I remember watching Crosby because it was
For sure.
Crosby's last year in junior.
Yeah.
And, obviously I have my perceptions of the whole Memorial Cup, London winning it, being a London fan. And I was in the stick room in the dressing room, and I was just like cutting some sticks or taping some sticks. And he came in, and it was just him and I. And he's such a great guy, like so easy to talk to, so interested in like, where I'm coming from, my story, like, what type of a player I am. Like, he's asking all these questions. And as soon as I said London, we just started talking about the Memorial Cup, and he told me like his side of things, like the injuries they were dealing with,
Right.
and kind of their schedule and hotel issues and stuff like that, just like behind the scenes kind of thing. And to kind of put together like watching him play and my memories of it, and then applying his side of things. It was
the
just
backstory's cool, right? Yeah.
really cool. And, obviously it was a really special Memorial Cup with the teams and the players that were playing in it. But to kind of get that behind the scenes look was
That's cool.
really neat.
Is there guys like, going through, obviously you played like backing up a little bit, but you ended up getting traded to Barrie. And Barrie wanted you, and they made a move to get you over there. But you played with some really good players in London, obviously, and then in Barrie. Was there anybody on the way up that because being a bit of a later bloomer, you're kind of learning on the fly. Like you said, that year was kind of, that draft year was a bit of a blur and just kind of riding a wave. And as you're learning on the fly, I know when I played and I kind of got in my first year pro, it's like, man, this is a different game. And I found I was watching a lot of guys, and I developed a better shot because I watched one of our captains that had an unreal shot and just mimicked what he did, basically, right? And so were there guys along the way in kind of major junior or even first year pro where you're like, man, and kind of grabbing stuff from different D-men or different forwards and work ethic and the way they approach the game? Was there certain guys that kind of rubbed off on you a little bit?
So I grew up, my older brother's really good friends with Nazem Kadri. and we're family friends. So Nazem's dad, Sam Kadri, was always a guy that my dad would call, if I was going through anything or to help navigate, whatever it was with agents or, whatever it was. But he would, that family, Nas and Sam, they were kind of guys to mentor me through, my first few years. And to be honest, like I haven't gone this year, but I still drop in and see Sam Kadri at his car dealership, and he'll just want to pick my brain and know what's going on, and ask him questions. But like that first year with the Knights, like there were so many guys that I was familiar with from my brother. Like Matt Ashman was a defenseman, and he was a really like positionally sound defenseman, and he didn't make mistakes, and he was a guy that really helped me a lot. But it was looking back on things, I wished I watched more hockey. I watched hockey as a kid when I was younger, but once you start playing 68 games and like hockey's all you're doing, sometimes it can be a little much for me at the time. And so I really, Nick Lindstrom was a guy I watched when I was really young.
For sure, yeah.
But as far as like, really watching a guy on the ice and stuff like that, it wasn't, I was just having fun. It was, looking back in hindsight, I wish I kind of, took more opportunities to really inspect guys' games the way I do now. I think I found the value in it now. But, at a younger age, it was, I didn't really know how to really approach my own development. I would just go play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think it's taken years for me, to be, on the team with guys like Kadri and Scheifele and Ekblad and all these guys. And like over the years, I've just been like, wow, this is what it takes. This is what these guys are doing. And, then I started applying it. But as for like the first few years, I was very, just enjoy the game, shoot pucks, don't do anything super special.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I regret it because it's made the player I am today. But for anybody growing up, I think being a student of the game is a super valuable part of your development. But at the same time, I think you need to also kind of sometimes take some time away from the game as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think that's huge. And I think, we talk about hockey IQ, right? Being a smart player, whether you're a defenseman or a forward. And how do you do that? How do you teach that? It's hard to teach, but I think to your point, that's how you teach it. If it's you and your dad sitting down, not critiquing the goals or the assists, but looking at how that D-man played that play or how that forward chipped the puck deep and created that cycle to turn into a goal. But kind of dissecting the game and being a little bit of a, we talk about all the time joking about like a hockey nerd, and you mentioned a name like Scheifele, I don't know him. I know guys that know him and I've heard a lot about him, but anything I've heard about him, he's a bit of a hockey nerd. He loves hockey, loves playing, loves watching games, and then you see guys like that and how they play, and it's not really by accident, right? He's a hard worker. Obviously he's put in the time and developed as a player, but you can tell that he's, the way he plays, he's obviously a smart player, right? Yeah. And that some of it comes natural. Sometimes kids just naturally are gifted with it and other guys have to work at it. And I think that's one of the ways to develop that hockey mind is just to watch games and watch games for the right reasons, not the big hits or the fight or the goal, but looking at the plays and how things develop and how things kind of move along in a game. Because there is flow to a game. Like you watch a game now way differently than you did before, right?
Completely different.
Yeah.
I used to, have a favorite team growing up and all that. Now it's just like I'm a fan of the game.
Yeah.
And watching individual players, you can go to any D-man on any team and they all have like a different, obviously a different style to their game, but some guys are just so standout in certain areas of the game. And, just a general fan will watch something and go like, oh, like that's a nice play. But to now watch it, in the, the position that I'm in, like I really like inspecting and like breaking down what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I won't necessarily watch the puck anymore in a game. Like if, Torrey Krug is out on the ice, like I'm not an offensive defenseman, so to watch him and see how he moves and to see like how he jumps up into the rush and try and break down his thought patterns and his reactions, it's different than mine. So it's kind of complimenting to like to watch guys that aren't like yourself. Or
Yeah.
even to watch a forward, like where is the centerman? You know, where is a good centerman? Where should I be looking to make these plays in certain situations?
Totally, yeah.
So to like watch a game for entertainment, you know, it's still I love watching hockey now more than I did growing up. But I just have a different kind of take on the game now. And I actually enjoy it more because I'm getting more out of it, you know, instead of watching the puck just kind of bounce around. And it's obviously, you know, fun to watch it like that. But, you know, to go into especially playoff hockey, like,
Yeah.
you know, that's the best hockey to watch. And to see guys really elevate their games, like to see how quick things are moving, like how did they make these plays? Like, you know, they knew they were making that play before they even had the puck.
Yeah, and being a pro like yourself and playing at that, you know, that level, you know, at the AHL, NHL preseason games, all that kind of stuff. You have, I find, and I mean, I didn't play in the NHL, but even just playing pro, I got such an appreciation for simple plays guys make and how hard they are.
Yeah.
They look so easy on TV, and some random fan will be like, oh, it was an easy play. Like, so hard to get that puck on the backhand on the fly and then make a quick little turn and make the pass. Like, it's not easy. And they make it look so easy. So you have such an appreciation for those plays and those skills, right? And whether it's a sixth defenseman, I mean, they're still pretty good, right? To a top defenseman, it's still, you know, and to your point, like this year I got in Colorado a little bit because I don't get a chance to watch them that often. And I got a chance to watch them a little bit more in the playoffs. And I wanted to key in on guys like McKinnon. And I obviously he's good, but I had such more of an appreciation for his game and how he plays and how fast and the pace he pushes. I was blown away by just how good he is, you know, just having a chance to watch him a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Like the younger guys that are on smaller market teams, I don't think, especially in Canada, you get a chance to really, you know, they don't get exposed the way, you know, like a Mitch Martin or a Matthews would.
Sure.
But like a guy like McKinnon or Sebastian Aho or all these young guys that are on kind of smaller market teams, you know, if you take the chance to actually watch their game and to see what they're doing, like if you go and talk to, you know, guys that have to defend them or, you know, play against them, I think, you know, there are some misconceptions on who's really like, you know, the most skilled in the league. Like obviously the most skilled guys are pretty known, but there's some sleepers as far as just a general hockey fan, that these guys are doing such special things. Like, to defend guys and what they're doing now, the skill is just off the charts. Like every year I go into a team, rookies are coming out and it's like, these guys are so good, you know, and it elevates your own game.
For sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like going back to defending Crosby. It just raises that bar and you have to expect every player is capable of doing that. Because if you don't do that, you're going to get burned. You're going to look, you know, you're going to look dumb.
Yeah, exactly.
But rookies definitely, like younger guys coming out now, they definitely have kind of a surprise factor. I think they can shock some people right now.
Now, over your 8 years of pro, if you look back at like kind of year 1, 2, when you were playing in the A and stuff, what's the biggest difference you notice between the young guys coming in? So I know now, like nowadays, especially the young guys are skill off the charts for the most part, right? Is there anything that kind of glares out? Like for instance, guys are a little bit more mentally tough as rookies 8 years ago than they are now? Or is there anything that kind of stands out for you? Like it's different, right? I mean, I'm sure back 8 years ago, there was a little bit more hanging out with the boys and partying and doing that. And maybe 8 years now, there's not as much. Guys are just out doing their own thing a little bit more. But is there anything kind of stands out as far as just the way the game's evolved and the players have evolved a little bit?
Yeah, I think, well, there's still a mix. Like you'll still get kind of like the meat and potatoes rookies that, you know, do the simple things right. And they might not get noticed as much, but there's still a really strong appreciation for that style of game. But, you know, the high end, like skill, speed players that are coming out now, they're so polished. Like guys are coming in at 18, 19 and they have NHL skill. Like even some of the guys we're skating with in our skates.
Yeah.
It's like, I wasn't expecting that out of such a young kid, you know what I mean? But, there definitely is, you know, the mental side of things. I think coaching is definitely evolving right now from kind of the old school, you know, being hard on guys and trying to break them and skating them into the ground. And now I wouldn't, you know, guys might be a little bit softer. Some guys can break down a little bit easier, but I think that's, you know, just kind of where coaching is going. Like Berube in St. Louis. I was fortunate enough to have him when I played in Chicago.
Okay.
And he was just another coach that just pumped confidence into guys and didn't really put any restrictions on anybody. He would talk to you as, man to man, really pump you up and make you feel, good about your game. And when it came time to perform, he was okay with mistakes. You know what I mean? Like he never, as tough as that guy was, he never like barreled down on you. He never, really singled you out in like a video session, or he never like bag skated us just into the ground. If we lost 5-0, it's back to the drawing board. We got to get better.
Yeah.
And guys' comfort level just rose with him. And we had an awesome year. And we had, rookies like Vince Dunn and some of the leading scorers in the league that just, took off under him. And when I saw him go up to St. Louis, I was like, well, this will be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's cool.
How these guys respond. And as soon as he got there, like guys they took off.
Yeah, they want to play for him, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think the old school mentality of screaming and yelling at guys and going up one side and down the other on a guy for making a mistake, I think it's past now.
Yeah.
And I think those guys are going to go, those coaches will be left behind a little bit as we move forward. But you're right. I think both the teams in the finals this year had coaches that the guys wanted to play for.
Sure.
The guys were excited and wanted to be there and wanted to play for those guys. And I think that's important. But it's also that fine line of, if you do cross that line too much, you're gonna get reined back in.
For sure.
But now the way from 99% of the pro guys, they're professional, man. They want to win. They want to play. They want to, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's money. Everyone wants to try to make that next paycheck or that next contract or that, and I think it's so important when you have a coach that respects that, allows you to make mistakes, allows you to kind of play outside your box once in a while, and keep those boundaries kind of a little bit more fluent rather than so boxed. I think sometimes in the A it gets so structured that, some guys don't get a chance to use their skill. Yeah. It's such a structured game, so.
For sure. And it's not like he was he wasn't pushing guys to step outside of their game. He just makes you feel really confident about the player you are. So if you're really a high-end offensive guy, you're going to try stuff and you might make mistakes, but the rest of the team is there to pick you up.
Yeah.
And he created, systems that put, there was a system in place where we knew where guys were on the ice, but once, it got to the point where a skilled guy can make a skilled play, he knew where everybody was going to be, that he could use his talent to make that play. And instead of boxing him into like, you have to drive the net or like you have to do this, he kind of gave the freedom to guys to kind of open up a little bit and feel good about making a play. And it was unbelievable to see him win the cup.
It's cool. Yeah. It's cool to see the behind, like for someone that played for him, you can vouch for this character, what type of guy he was, and not shocking that he had those guys buy in and they were all on the same page for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's cool. Now, when you kind of looking through, obviously we talked about this already, but you played with some real high end guys. Were there qualities or things that you saw in, like, let's say an Ekblad and a Scheifele and a Tenorti and these other guys that are all playing pro and got on to play a little bit of, obviously some big careers, but is there anything that you kind of see as like a bit of a common denominator in some of these guys as far as work ethic or the way they approach the game or their love for the game? Or is there anything that kind of stands out, or one or two things you're like, when you see guys, because you played a ton of guys, Connor Sheary, these guys have gone on to have careers. There's certain things that pop with you. They're like, okay,
yeah,
you can kind of see it.
Yeah. I mean, one that really sticks out for me with Scheifele is just how much he loved the game. Like for him, he could never get enough hockey. We would be playing, a 3-3 in the OHL, and he would be taking his gear home from the rink on a Sunday to go play, to skate around at his billet's backyard rink, and was calling guys to come play shinny, which, like after 3 games and 3 nights, most guys were pretty bagged. But eventually, like, myself included, you start jumping out. Like it was infectious. And, that guy he was on the ice first, off the ice last, just was always thinking hockey. And for some guys, like that might burn them out, but like he was so focused on what he wanted to achieve, and was having so much fun doing it, that he was just a guy that just enjoyed the game probably more than anybody I've ever played with.
That's cool.
And to see him get into playoffs and really, not playing for a paycheck, playing for, the cup, you can see his game elevate just because he loves it so much.
Yeah.
And that was a standout, but just the work ethic, putting the preparation in, working on things after practice, attention to detail throughout practice. But then when it comes to game time, like not really getting so anxious and so worked up about being perfect. Some of the best, they still make mistakes, but they're trying stuff. And eventually I think, in their career, there's a tipping point where they know, when the high risk play is when it's a good time to make that play and when it's not. And, their reps of just, making, very skilled plays, it just starts to pay off in the end.
Oh, definitely. And I think, you see guys like Shifley who maybe have practiced this stuff thousands of times on the outdoor rink or in his basement, wherever it is, right? And then all of a sudden you get comfortable with it, and then you're able to pull it off in a game, and then it just becomes part of your game. It's another tool that you've got, whether it's faking a shot or whatever that is, right? And I think that practice is obviously what helps these guys become good. Like even a guy like Crosby, look at him and how good he is on his backhand. Well, that wasn't just by accident because he has strong wrists. Like this guy worked on his backhand. He works on protecting the puck. He works on saucing pucks through obstacles to get him across ice. And then you watch him in games and it looks easy again. We're like, oh, it's so easy. But man, he put hours and hours and hours in on perfecting that skill, and then sometimes you see guys that are just naturally gifted. Like they come in and it's frustrating because the guys that are working their tail off are like, man, this guy hardly touched the weight all summer, and look at him, like he's flying around here, snapping pucks around. It's like,
yeah, there's some freaks out there for sure. And it's, it makes you wonder. It makes you, just like how nonchalant they are. It almost becomes an advantage at some point because they're thinking differently. It's just a different process for them. Like Phil Kessel was one of those guys. He would come into camp and he was, I wouldn't say he was in the best shape.
He was in a shape.
But, he gets on the ice and he just thought differently, and he had a speed to him that was so unlike his body type. Yeah. But I think he just had that mindset of, over the years of just being, such a strong player, he had this confidence about his game that, he knew what he was, and, he was one of those guys that didn't score goals in the weight room. Like that was kind of his mentality. Yeah. And
he has that tattooed on his arm.
Yeah, but no, there's some freaks out there.
But he's a guy too. Like you get, obviously when you're playing in Toronto, you're gonna get loved or hated, whatever. And so it's kind of in a tight bubble. But I've always respected, and I've heard a lot of stuff about Phil just through buddies that played with him or whatever. And obviously he's a guy, just let him go. Yeah. He's gonna score you 30. Yeah. He's a good guy. He's he's fine. I've heard he's an awesome teammate and like a funny guy and stuff.
He's a funny guy.
But just like, don't bug me. Yeah. I might not have a six pack, but just like leave me alone. Yeah. I'm going to go I'm going to go wheel around. I'm going to get frustrated when I don't score, and I'm going to get mad if I play bad. I think he's hard on himself, but man, he's one of those guys that just is, you watch him skate is so natural.
It's crazy.
Like, if you watched him, if you stood him up against, with 17 other men's league guys, he'd blend in. Yeah. Right. And then but his skill set,
so he turns the jets on.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. And his shot is, ridiculous. Right. So, but I mean, yeah, he's a guy that's just one of those guys, maybe a bit of an outlier. It comes to him a bit easier. Yeah. He can move around pretty good. He's done well. But I respect his skill set, man. It's unbelievable. And it's always one of those things. Well, imagine he worked really, really hard. Imagine maybe he'd be shittier. I don't know.
Yeah. That's the thing. Right? It's like, if you start changing his mindset, maybe he's, starts gripping the stick a little bit.
Totally.
More. Yeah. If it's working, just let it go.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. Did you ever have any encounters with guys like him at all at camp? Like, would you guys end up doing dinners and things like that when you're at main camp with Pittsburgh?
Not necessarily with like, Crosby or Malkin or any of those guys. There was a couple nights where we did a dinner and like Ian Cole or some of those guys would come out. And they were all great guys. Yeah. Like, they would bring their wife out or not or whatever. And they were just down to the earth, just really good guys. But Phil, the only time I really saw him outside the rink was at the mini putt course. So he was out there. We had a bunch of like younger guys out there. We were just playing mini putt, and he was out there with I think it was his wife, and yeah, he just kind of waved the boys and
Yeah.
kept playing his round.
Yeah.
But he's an interesting guy, really good guy.
Yeah. No, I've heard nothing but good things about him. And then moving forward, kind of obviously continuing on with the A and stuff. And then you decide at one point, you know what, maybe I'm going to go try Europe out and, give that a try and kind of see how it all, what was the decision behind that as far as, still kind of young, 25, 26, still opportunities in North America, but was it more so just, I'm going to try something else out. I'm going to try to.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, my year in Syracuse, my last year in the American League was, it was a really good year. Like we had a really strong team. I played really well. But it was probably the most taxing year on my body I think that I'd ever had. Our coach, unbelievable coach in Benoit Gru, but he really skated us hard. Like we were doing 2-a-day practices in March, probably the most game shape I had ever been in. We would just skate the doors off of teams.
Yes.
But it really took a toll on me, and I went into the off season pretty gassed, and it was like, do I want to come back and grind out the American League and, do the bus rides and do all this? And, I was a little bit in pain, and my motivation level wasn't very high for that summer. And something came up in Austria, and it was September. Like it was late. I was looking for a North American deal, and some came and gone, and European deals, they came, and those doors closed, and I started to kind of worry, like, geez, I might not have a job this year.
Yeah.
And, team in Austria called, and they're like, you know what, there was no kind of back and forth. It was like, here's, take it or leave it. You want it, we want you kind of thing. And at the time I was, pretty stressed out, and I jumped on it. And to be honest, I'm really happy that I did, because it was a whole new experience for me as a player and as a person to go try something new. And I think my last year in Austria was probably a year that I learned the most about myself as a player and a person. And I think it kind of lit the fire underneath me to get back into things this summer and go, you know what, you're 27. I think, I feel good. There's only 44 games.
Yeah.
Travel was easier. Just the lifestyle was a lot easier, less stress. And I feel rejuvenated, and I'm excited to play again.
Good. I
think after the year in Syracuse, my motivation level was really low, and it was hard to get in the gym. I didn't want to get on the ice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then to go over to Austria, and we didn't make playoffs, and it was definitely a different situation as far as how things are run and just hockey ops and stuff like that. And I kind of took a step back this year after the season and was like, is this what I want? There's only a certain, window of opportunity. And at 26, at the time 27, where do I want to be as a player? And made the decision, you know what, I'm gonna go for it, try and make the road back to the American League, and just kick the can and see where it goes. And it got me excited.
Good.
And to this year, getting in the gym and getting on the ice, I think it was a lot easier with kind of like the motivation of proving to myself that I could still do it. And I think I just took a different approach to the game this summer as far as getting on the ice. In the past, I was more of a gym guy.
Yeah.
And didn't spend too much time throughout the summer being on the ice. I get to camp, and, fitness scores were high. And I get on the ice, and it was like, oh, I still got some rust on,
right.
Still got some rust on the steel.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think this summer was like, take a step back and like, okay, how am I going to get there and break things down? And, we talked about evolving as a player and going over and playing in Europe. Like, being a stay-at-home D-man in Europe is, you're a bit of a black sheep. So, you know, and especially
They like the wheeling. Yeah.
So, and being on the big ice, it was like, geez, like it was a completely different game. And it was actually really hard for me to make the transition. The game was just a lot more freewheeling and less structured, and it was just a different looks for me. And that was when I was like, you know what, I need to start kind of evolving so that I can be involved in like these puck moving plays and, you know, up in the rush, because I do want to go back to Europe eventually. But, you know, I needed to evolve as a player to get to that point. But coming back to North America, I was, you know what, I'm going to lay it on the line. And I feel good.
No, that's good. And I think, you know, you said something in there that I think is really important, even for young kids, is it's going to happen to everybody. It happened to me, happened to you. I'm sure it happened to Crosby, happened to Horvat, everybody, where you have years or months or days where you're like, I don't want to go to the rink. I'm not, and that's okay. Like a lot of times, you know, I think parents get rattled by it, or kids get rattled by it, or you feel guilty. It's like, you've been doing this for a long time, man. So you're going to have times where, you know, and I think for you, you know, realizing it and being like, I need to make a bit of a change. I got to shuffle the deck here a little bit and maybe change what I'm doing. And maybe the opportunity didn't come up. So you're like, this is kind of the avenue I got pushed into. But for you to kind of embrace it and look back on it and say, man, this was a good learning experience for me, you know, both personally and professionally. And then going to a place like Austria and playing, because you're right, the league's not quite as professional. It's not, you know, it's not organized the same as the AHL or the NHL or even the East Coast League probably. But going there, did that kind of give you a little bit more of an appreciation for how for how the AHL runs and how you're treated and how you know, kind of the organizations are ran there? For
sure. I think it taught me like how precious things actually are, like how short your career could be, your window of opportunity, how quickly things can, you know, how quickly the door closes. And if you aren't constantly coming in every day looking to improve and looking to, you know, prove yourself, it's going to go quicker than you think.
Yeah.
And I think I got, you know, I've had, you know, times like that throughout my career, but, you know, after the year in Syracuse, not being so motivated and kind of just opting for, you know, not the easy way out, but looking for something different in the sport, I think it just kind of opened my eyes to say, like, you know what, should you be here? Take advantage of what you have right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think as a young player, I think setting goals and, you know, having the mentality of every day you're going to prove yourself and really going for it, like really pushing yourself to going for it. And to, you know, obviously take some time away from the sport, but if you keep your motivation up and your interest in the sport, then do whatever you have to do to keep that balance. But for me, it was, I kind of put myself into the ground and then dig yourself out, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly.
But no, it's been a good summer to really kind of discover myself as a player again. I remember again on the ice with you at the start of the summer, and I was like, geez, I don't know if I belong here. And you know, we've worked a lot.
Man, yeah, it's been like, even to see from the start of the summer to now, like just your approach, you know, you've always had confidence, stuff like that, but even the stuff you're doing now, I tell you every second skate, I'm like, that was awesome, man. Like, I love how you're doing a lot of evasive stuff. I love how you're adding this to your game all the time. And I think it's so important for, you know, just like you said, for players to realize, you know, and kind of get better every day. So realize what you need to work on, and then try to hammer that. And it doesn't have to be spending money at a gym or doing on ice stuff. It could just be shooting pucks at home. It could be stick handling a ball on your rollerblades. Like, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, right? But just trying to get better every day, trying to evolve your game a little bit. And you know, whether you're playing minor hockey or you're playing pro, there's always guys chomping at your heels. So if you're going to AAA tryouts, there's a bunch of kids that want that spot. If you're going to an AHL tryout, there's a bunch of guys that want that spot. So how do you separate yourself a little bit, you know?
Absolutely.
And one thing I think that you've done a good job, we talked about this a little bit off the air, but is, you know, you've kind of found a bit, you know, and not to say that I'm not promoting fighting, but at the same time, I'm from the era that fighting was a part of the game, you know, and I think it was an important part of the game. I don't like the stage fights, but if somebody hit a young rookie or if somebody took a run at your goalie, there was a consequence for that, you know? And I think one part of your game that you kind of elevated a little bit, especially kind of later in junior and pro, is being a hard defenseman to play against. You know, an honest guy that if you're going to do something stupid, you're gonna have to answer for it, whether it's through a hit or a verbal abuse or you know, a fight or something like that. But you kind of found a little bit of a niche there where I'm not afraid to stick up for my teammates. I'm not afraid to play a tougher role, and I think that's another reason that kind of elevates your stock a little bit, right? As a defenseman.
Absolutely. Like kind of just adding as many elements to your game as possible. And for me, when I got into pro, my first year pro was the lockout year. So the American League had like 11 defensemen in it. So I started in the East Coast, and I didn't really know much about that league going into it. I didn't really expect to start my career there. And to be honest, like my first game, I was terrified. And I think my whole OHL career, I had 4 or 5 fights. So it's not like, I really knew what I was doing.
Right.
But I knew that I had to create some space for myself. And, I ended up fighting my first game just out of fear, really.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like, if I felt like somebody was after me, they weren't.
Yeah.
But, I kind of just, my senses were up and I fought. And then from there on, I kind of just, I learned that it is a skill. You know what I mean? As bad as it looks sometimes on TV, or people might not understand like the role it plays in hockey. There is a time and place for it, and I was fortunate to play with some guys that were really good at it, and they kind of took me under their wing and showed me that it is a skill, just like MMA is, just like boxing. Like there is an art to it, and for me, it was just another element that I could add to my game that, might have, if I was, neck and neck with another defenseman, it might have given me the edge to get into the lineup. And when the lineup was so full from the lockout, and, Pittsburgh obviously had a strong NHL team, the depth chart in the American League was just as strong as well. So looking at the lineup, nobody was really doing it. And, the coaches said like it could be an opportunity for me to get into the lineup. So I started practicing it, and I was never a guy to chase somebody down for a fight. I never, squared up at center ice and, never put on the show.
Yeah.
I think of all the fights I've been in, I've squared up like once or twice. It's more of a
reactionary, right?
Reaction. Yeah. If you take out one of my players, I'll stand up for them. You know what I mean? And I think that went a long way, especially with the coach. I had John Hines. He was a big believer in guys standing up for each other and having team toughness. And it gave me the edge to get into the lineup, and not only to get in, but to stay.
Yeah.
And once you can stay in the lineup, you start to prove yourself as a player as well. And, fighting just became another element of my game. But then as I got older, I had proven myself in that category where I didn't really have to do it as much. There were younger guys looking to prove themselves that would step in. But at the same time, like it was a part of my game that if something happened, I was prepared to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think for parents and for younger players, like trying to kind of shy away from that area, I think, I don't know if that's the right approach. Like I think knowing how to do it is the safest thing you could do, because you never know when it's going to happen. And if you don't know what you're doing, you might get hurt.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think being prepared, right? And just not to say that you're going to go out and fight as a young guy, but I think just being able to play tough and play hard, but knowing in the back of your mind that, if anything happened, I could handle myself. I could grab a guy and I'd be fine and, and be able to handle it. I think, it was a big part of my game. Not that I was a tough guy at all, but I was a small guy playing back before the lockout. So it was like old man rules. It was grabbing pants, big guys like you, turn me into a pretzel or can openers all over the place. Right. So learning how to play that style, and then, it just kind of became, but I was like you, like I ask kids all the time, how bad do you want it? Oh, I want it really bad. No. Like, how bad do you want it? What are you willing to do to make that team or steal that guy's job? Yep. And I know for you and for me, like I'm willing to fight. I'm willing to block a shot. I'm willing to go dive for that puck. Like I'll do whatever, but some kids don't have that. And I think it's something that you learn over time. You mature, you kind of realize, you get a new appreciation for the game and where you want to play and how far you want to play. But how bad do you want it? Like, what are you willing to do? And again, I agree. I think body checking is a skill. I think fighting is a skill. I think shooting is a skill. And how do you get better at these skills? You just got to practice. You got to work at it. And then when you have the confidence, then you're fine to throw a hit. You know, you feel confident throwing a hit. So I think it's all stuff, like you said, adding those tools to your toolbox a little bit and, you know, becoming the best player that you can be. But a lot of the stuff starts at young ages. If kids can start getting into, I'm not saying fighting, but kids can get into like protecting the puck properly, then they're not afraid to go in the corner because they know they can protect the puck and they're not going to get run. And, you know, and I think those are all huge things to just practice and kind of continue getting better at, you know?
Absolutely. It's a survival instinct. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, I got a job to do and, you know, I need a job next year. And right. Like this is what I do for my career. And, if I'm going to keep doing this, just like I tried to evolve this summer as far as, you know, adding some more offensive things to my game and stuff like that. When I was younger, the way that I survived was to do that. And, you know, I'm not telling people to go fight, but if you know how to do it, you probably won't have to use it as much. Like unless you really want to fight. And there are guys like that do that, and hats off to them. That's a tough, you know, role to fill. For sure. But, you know, if anything can happen out on the ice. So if you're prepared for it, I think you'll be safer off. Yeah, no, definitely. Now, kind of moving through, like you're, you know, 26, 27. I'm sure you got tons of weddings to go to in the last bunch of years, or coming up with buddies, you know, getting married and starting families and getting the real jobs, right? No, but for a guy like you know, because I went through it a little bit, not quite as long, but you know, you come back in the summers and you get the odd parent like, oh, why are you still playing? Like, why don't you just go get a job? Like, are you kidding? I'm big on just play, man. You're young. I think you're young. Play as long as you can. Enjoy it. You know, you're making a living. You're not mooching off your parents. You know what I mean? Like you're in a good spot. Is it tough though when you see your buddies getting jobs or buying houses or getting engaged or whatever? Is it something that you're like, fill your boots, have fun with it? Or is it something that sometimes you're like, man, maybe I should just get that job at TD Bank? And there's definitely times. I mean, you know, you're on the bus on a Saturday night and you're 21 years old driving to Hershey, Pennsylvania. And, you know, you're getting videos, Snapchats or whatever of, you know, your buddies in university. And it's like, is that what I want? You know what I mean? Like this is our third game in 3 nights. I feel like crap. You know, I'm pretty banged up right now. I'm tired. And, you know, maybe the motivation's low. My friends are having the time of their life. And I think there's a lot of temptation out there to kind of veer from, you know, what you really want. And I think, you know, as a player, that's part of the mental toughness of staying focused and, you know, setting goals for yourself to accomplish. I think that makes the motivation a lot easier if you have something to strive for. But there's a lot of temptation. And for the people that, you know, I see this summer and they're like, oh, are you still playing? You know, and they're looking at me like, they give you the crooked eye. You're still playing? Oh yeah, in Austria. Like, you know, they've never heard of that league or the American League. Not many people are too familiar with you know, anything outside the NHL. But you know, sometimes it can be like, you know, you can question yourself, but other times it can, you know, add fuel to the fire. For sure. And I think kind of having that perspective on, you know, some doubt from people around you or just people questioning your career, it just fuels the fire to prove them wrong. Totally. And I think one thing too that a lot of people don't know, and I'll lay it out here, you can confirm or deny this, but you know, when you look at guys playing in the AHL or in Europe, even the East Coast League is not great. You're going to make anywhere from $400 a week to maybe $1,000, you know, plus all your rooming and board is covered. So it's not terrible. It's not bad. But I mean, when you get to the AHL, like entry level in the AHL is like 60, 70 grand a year, which you work at TD Bank down the street, you're not even making that. And you're going to work 7-8 months, you know, depending on playoffs. And some guys in the AHL are making 200, 300, 400, 500. Some of these guys like on bigger deals, right? The guys that are maybe, so that's not a bad living. I mean, overall, right? Oh, for sure. And then guys that get a chance to go to Europe, I mean, now you get to get paid to go travel a little bit in Europe and check it out, see a whole new country. You know, I think that's an unbelievable education aside from hockey or work or anything, right? So my thing with it is, if I get young guys coming to me at 21, 22, like I'm just finishing university, I don't know what I should do. I'm like, go play. Yeah. Go sign in the SP. Go sign over in Europe in a terrible league to start, but just go play, man. Yeah. You can cover your costs and enjoy it and have fun. You're young. Go enjoy it. There's like, to me, the real world is awesome. I love it, but you don't need to be paying a mortgage right now and worried about your, you know what I mean? Like just go enjoy, have fun, you know, push it. And there's going to be a time where everyone gets to that point where like, okay, maybe I can move. Maybe I should move on now. Maybe I should get a job or retire or whatever. But
I mean, I think it's awesome. I think you gotta keep having fun and keep doing it. And I mean, yeah, fill your boots. I'm really excited for this year for you because I know the work you put in this summer. And, you know, even today we were talking on the ice. I'm like, are you excited? Like, I can't wait, man.
Yeah.
Pumped to go to camp. Like, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, because some guys I talk to like, it's camp, man. Camp sucks. And yeah, it does. But it's fun to have that fire back and kind of being excited to get back out there and trying to prove yourself again in North America, which would be good.
For sure. I mean, I haven't had to go and make a team since, I was trying out for those junior B teams.
Yeah.
So definitely having that fire right now, like I'm anxious for it to start. And I've never felt this going into a season. Usually, you know, you have your contract locked up and it's, you know, you're going to be there and it's like, all right, let's just get into the swing of things. But, you know, to go down there and day one, like go and prove myself, it's a completely different feeling that it's exciting me. Like I am really looking forward to it. And like kind of what you were saying earlier, like play when you can. The window is short, and what you can learn from a, you know, professional hockey career or, you know, amateur, whatever it is, they don't teach that in schools.
No.
You know, and not everybody's fortunate to have those experiences and, you know, to learn how to be a good teammate and to, you know, just show up every day and to prove yourself and improve, and, you know, the work ethic that's needed and the commitment, everything that goes along with being a pro. You know, they don't teach that in schools. And when you get out, you know, whether you want to go to school or just jump right into a job, you're going to have an edge, I feel, on just, you know, your traditional diploma or degree or whatever it is. And, you know, that was something that when I was younger, I questioned a little bit, like, you know, do I want to do this? Like, I'm still young. Maybe I should just go get a job, like you were saying. And as I get older and I start like looking back and kind of inspecting my career, it's like, you know, I'm learning a lot here. And the experiences that I'm getting, like going over to Austria and getting to travel, you know, I got to live in Chicago, New York, you know, small town Pennsylvania, West Virginia, like all these different places. And the experience you get from traveling, but like to live in those places and to see like the day to day and the culture and just trying to understand like the community that you're in. It's something that not many people are fortunate to get.
And even the contacts. I mean, you think every year you're going to meet probably another new 15 to 20 guys just on your team.
Yeah.
So just the contacts overall, guys getting into media, guys getting into coaching, guys getting whatever, right? And then, so now, you know, times that by 8 or 10 or 15 years, you're going to know some people, you know, if you need a job or you're looking to do something or you have a passion of an avenue that you want to get into. I mean, there's going to be opportunities there for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And whatever you do after hockey, it's like you're as a professional hockey player, you're going to want to be the best at it, and to take that kind of that hunger into whatever it is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's such an edge. Whereas just a traditional school might take things for granted or might move slowly or whatever it is. But it's I agree with you. Like, go play, you know, take it in, learn from it. And it's only going to make you a better person.
No, it's great. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but quick question on the pro game and the pro off the ice stuff. How's your wine list? Like, are you good with the wines? Have you gotten into the reds or the whites or?
Definitely a red guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Red.
Have you hung out with any like wily vets that are like big into the wine and they know all that like cabs and the cab sauvs and all that stuff?
Usually the guys from Quebec are really into the wines and their scotches. You know, living in Austria was a really cool experience because, you know, the wine there is like $2 for a bottle.
Really?
And it's great. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just another thing. Like, you get to experience like the culture of different foods and I mean, wine, I like pairing wine at dinner. Yeah. But the German beer is great too. Yeah. And everywhere's got its own little, you know, their own little niches and, you know, different scenes going on. So it's been cool to experience. I
remember one of the years I was playing pro, we had a guy that came back. He'd been around years and he came back from Europe. You know, sometimes guys leave Europe quick and come back, play in the East Coast League I was in the West Coast League at the time, but this guy was a cool dude, but just a cat, like a single guy. He's like at the time, probably 29, 30, like kind of a guy you bring in for the playoffs type thing, right? but this guy was like slick, like knew, and I was young, so just learning. Knew the wine list. Like he'd bring a paper to the, to breakfast. It's like, I want to be like that guy one day, like one of those wily vets that just had it all. Like you thought he had it all nailed down, I'm talking about stocks, and I'm like, stock, like what?
Yeah.
Just eating it up. Right.
Yeah.
But it was like, you get around these older guys, right? When you're a young guy and you're like, man, he's drinking scotch. Like my grandpa used to drink scotch, and it's so funny, right? How, and I mean, a lot of these guys have a little bit of money, so not crazy, but some of them have good. So they, they're into kind of some fun stuff. And as a young guy, you got to get caught up, and you're like, man, this is sick. Like, this is pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Especially more so, I'd say in North America, just because, like you said, there is kind of more money going around. But yeah, there's definitely some characters out there that are always kind of leading the pack, and
for sure.
I wouldn't say I'm one of those guys, but I'll tag in. I'll join in on the bottle with you.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Listen, buddy, all the best this year. Thanks a lot for popping by. This is awesome, man.
Yeah, this was fun. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. All right.